It's ironic, I think, how things are turning out in today's world. There's an old curse that goes something like this: May you live in interesting times. As you may have guessed, these are indeed interesting times. But how did we get here? Funny you should ask, since I was thinking about that very subject. In times past, a group of women got together and decided that marriage was slavery, a comfortable concentration camp, they said, and set about deciding what they really wanted out of life. As is typical of us all, they looked over at men and saw the cool stuff they were doing and the money they were making, and with covetous eyes demanded equality. Men, being who we are, said, "Yes, dear." The problem was it was hard to do all this cool stuff, or at least it was hard to get the cool jobs. As a way of excusing women for not measuring up, as well as providing a universal argument that could be used to gain all sorts of privileges for women in the name of equality, the concept of the patriarchy was invented. This idea, created by bored, rich, white housewives, was that male systems and social structures were inherently biased against women, and that it wasn't women who were failing to measure up, but the measure itself that is wrong. These bored housewives and their acolytes demanded special rules just for women, and sometimes, when politically expedient, minorities, and called it affirmative action. They demanded equal pay, which is fair, then moved the goalposts to equal pay for work of equal value, which required bureaucrats to assign comparative worth to jobs. Men, being who we are, said, "Yes, dear." But the tar ball was rolling now, and the acolytes of the bored housewives had acolytes of their own, and they all had mouths to feed and an axe to grind. They cast about for something to state their anger at men, and landed upon domestic violence shelters and rape counseling services. They got jobs as civil servants and child support collections officers, and created whole new branches to government and massively expanded the divorce industry. It seemed with every passing month there was yet more statistics and studies and movies of the week depicting men as the beasts and bastards, vile pond scum hardly worth the effort to scrape off your boots. Men are pigs, and all men are potential rapists were not only commonly accepted phrases, they were government-sponsored billboards. Feminists, as these bored housewives and their acolytes came to be known, demanded changes in laws based on sex to compensate for the evil nature of men. Legal presumption of innocence came to mean women are innocent creatures. At the same time, these acolytes used this anger to solidify women's power over the family, while virtually removing men altogether. Men, being what we are, said, "Yes, dear." To justify all the jobs that all the acolytes needed to pay the bills, after all, with a huge influx of labor it became almost impossible to live on one income, it was necessary to show increasing need for these services. Statistics and studies and whole academic disciplines were expanded, created, and manipulated until enough data to justify these jobs could be generated. And the public, on reading these studies and not knowing the facts themselves, acquiesced to feminist demands like clockwork, until society reached a point where one sex clearly enjoyed more rights and freedoms than the other, often enshrined in law using sex-specific terms, where one sex could literally do nothing right if the other decided he was wrong, for example, in cases of date rape or unintended pregnancy. A world where even in the face of massive advantage for one, that sex continued to enjoy incentives denied the other. A world where medical spending is greatest on the sex with the least health problems and longest lifespan. A world where educational focus remains on the sex with the best outcomes, after changing said system to accommodate them, while blaming the other for their failure to keep up. A world where one sex is so devoid of options or relief of any kind that they kill themselves 4 times as often, and where the public affirms the belief that no one cares by, well, not caring. A world where the greatest evil to come of the disenfranchisement of 2 generations of men is the lack of good husband material. A world brought about because men, being what we are, said, "Yes, dear." We are now reaching the point in history where the acolytes of those bored housewives have noticed the other sex isn't too fond of them anymore. Sometimes they're even angry, and yelling misogynist, or any other ist for that matter, just doesn't seem to work as well anymore. Some of these acolytes and their friends have started to see the writing on the wall and are beginning to ask for a ceasefire of sorts. In a crass attempt to solidify all the gains for women and losses for men, that these people are asking the second sex to stop fighting just as they get off the ground, without having a chance to speak or defend himself. The question for men is, what will you say this time around?